No, I said Law and Order Buffalo.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
His office.
It's like horse deal horses on the field.
Who's he with? Just to be there and everybody else.
I don't know. What is interesting?
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I will brief you on what happened today in the grand jury with regard to an October 14th, 2022 case that happened at UB, and then I will also at the end give you a brief update on the fire investigation for the unfortunate loss of the firefighter that we had today as well. So let me start with UB. As everyone knows, there was a tragic loss of life that occurred in a University of Buffalo parking lot on October 14th of last year. Let me first establish some ground rules here, and then I'll get into the specific facts of the case. The first ground rules is that I'm not going to use anyone's name here. I'm going to refer to the participants by a title that I'll give them. So I will not use anyone's names. I will not confirm any names at all in regard to this investigation. That's ground rule number one. Number two is this matter went into the grand jury. I put this matter into the grand jury, and as we all know, a grand jury is a secret proceeding. The fact that a grand jury is even in existence is a secret proceeding. For anyone to be talking about the existence of a grand jury is improper. And I know that was done in this case, and whoever did that did it improperly. I firmly believe that when a grand jury investigation is initiated, that it is secret, and no one is to know it's initiated. And so any evidence that is given to the grand jury, I am prohibited from talking about. So I cannot talk about any witnesses that went in the grand jury. I cannot talk about any evidence that went in the grand jury. I cannot articulate anything that came out of a grand jury at all right? So all of that is secret, and I cannot talk about that at all. What I can talk about, and what I have a lot of, is independent evidence that was obtained outside of the grand jury. Evidence that was obtained in the course of this 6-month-long investigation that I received before we went in the grand jury. So all that evidence is fair game, and I can talk about that all day, and I will talk about that all day if you want. Those are the ground rules that we need to establish here, make sure everyone's clear here. Okay, so let's start out with the players. We have 6 individuals that were involved in this incident. We have 5 individuals who were together, who were friends to some varying degree. And then we have 1 individual who came to the party solo. All right, so that we got 6 players in this scene. We of the 5 individuals who were together, one of those individuals was the victim, who was a Buff State student at the time of this incident. Another individual of the 5 was a former Buff State student. 2 others were also then Buff State students. And one of the 5 was a UB student who actually lived in a dorm there at UB. So the 5 guys who were together, 3 of them were Buff State students at the time, to include the victim. 1 was a former Buff State student, and 1 was a UB student. The one over here was neither, and there has been some. He's a stabber, all right? The one over here is the stabber. There's been talk out there, again, there has been so much misinformation out there that it's not even funny. And one of the pieces of misinformation was that the stabber, the one, was a UB student or a former UB student. He never had anything to do with UB at all. Never went there, had no relation to UB whatsoever. All right, so those are the players. Let's talk about the five. The victim became friends with the four others sometime in the early semester of last fall of 2022. And the victim got to know one of the other four pretty well, and then that one individual introduced him to the other three. Evidence that we gathered indicated that of the five individuals, I'm not going to say all five of them. I'm not going to identify which ones of the five. I'm just going to say in general that this group of kids, we have evidence that they had a practice of robbing marijuana dealers. The street name for that is called Stain, S-T-A-I-N. We have evidence from cell phone messages, and I will say cell phone messages that do not include the victim's cell phone, so I'll be fair to the victim here. The victim's cell phone was not included, but from some of the other four, we have cell phone messages from earlier, September, October, before the UB incident, where they talk about staining people. And in street terms, that means robbing marijuana dealers. It appears that the victim befriended these individuals, and we have evidence that he wanted to engage in that lifestyle. And I'll leave it at that. We have cell phone records now 5 days before this incident occurred. So on October 19th, we have cell phone records where the victim now is involved in cell phone exchanges with one of the other four, and they're talking about staining. We have cell phone records from 3 days before this incident, again with the victim involved with one of the other four, and they also refer to staining people, staining someone. I should have said at the beginning here, but let me, midway through, nothing that I say here, that I've said previously in the past 5 minutes, that I say going forward here, nothing that I say here where I'm trying to harm the victim's reputation, do any harm to the victim's family at all, to do anything to hurt the victim at all. It appears by all accounts that the victim was a fine young man from a good, strong, supportive, loving family. But for those of us who have kids, as we all know, I got 5 of my own. Sometimes kids get involved with other kids who steer them down the wrong path. And it appears that the friends that the victim met along the way at his time at Buff State unfortunately led to the incident on October 14th of last year. On that date, it happened to be one of the 5, not the victims, but one of the other 4. It happened to be one of their birthdays. And they were planning on getting some marijuana and celebrating and partying, celebrating one of the 5 birthday. The plan was that we obtained through, again, independent evidence outside of the grand jury. The plan was to use counterfeit money to buy marijuana off the drug dealer, who happens to be the stabber too, the one over here. That was the plan. As I think a lot of us know by now, and I've articulated numerous times over the course of many press conferences over the years, that the way that you buy marijuana now is through Instagram. That's the way that you buy marijuana now, through Snapchat, through Instagram, through social media. That's how kids buy marijuana now, until we get dispensaries. But for now, we use social media to buy marijuana. Kids do. And so the 5 of them went on social media. One of the 5 used their phone to go on social media to buy marijuana off one over here. And they were going to meet in the UB parking lot on UB campus near the dorms. That was a set-up meeting point for the buy of the marijuana. So we have video evidence from Buff State that the 5 got in one car at Buff State and they drove to UB. And we have video evidence from UB that shows the one car with the one guy by himself come to UB as well. And they then met up at UB. The one car with the 5 guys in it parked in the Richmond B parking lot. 5 guys in one car parked in the Richmond B parking lot, which is outside of dorms there at UB. And the one guy, the dealer, by himself, pulled up in the Moody Terrence parking loop by the Richmond Annex. So the cars were not together. They were separated to a certain degree. I don't have the exact distance. It wasn't that far, but it was not right next to one another. They were separated. The victim takes the cell phone of the one guy who used the cell phone to buy marijuana, because you need, apparently, you need the cell phone of the guy who initiated the marijuana buy. You need that cell phone when you go meet up with the dealer in order to exchange information that you're the one I'm waiting for. So the victim took one of the other 4's cell phones, the one guy who set the deal up, along with the other guy's backpack that had the ID of that other guy and a large knife in the backpack, and went and walked over by himself to the dealer's car and got in the car with the dealer. The other 4 guys now are kind of hanging out. Actually, 2 of the 4 guys actually goes in the dorm at UB there to get some food, and the other 2 are just kind of hanging out waiting, and then the 2 get food and come back and join the other 2. So now all 4 of them together, kind of waiting now for the deal to go down in the car. In addition, obviously, to the backpack with the knife in it and the phone, the victim also brought $1,800 in counterfeit money into the car with him to buy a pound of marijuana. When he gets in the car, something went awry. I don't know, we don't know definitively what happened. I can speculate that the dealer recognized it was counterfeit money, but do I definitively know that? I do not. But I suspect that the dealer recognized it was counterfeit money, and we have a cell phone record from the cell phone that the victim had with him, his friend's cell phone that he took, the one who arranged the marijuana buy. We have the cell phone records that says he texts on one of the other four and says, "I'm in the vehicle." The guy he texted said, "Everything's sturdy," meaning everything okay. And then the response from the victim back is, "I'm about to duff him, get ready." And then a fight broke out in the car. And then once the fight broke out in the car, the other four now join in. And we have numerous, 3 to be specific, 4 to varying degree, 3 with good identification, a 4th with okay identification, but we have 3 independent witnesses, students. I shouldn't say students, but I don't know if they're all students, to tell you the truth, but I assume they're students. People at the UB area there, in the dorm area there, who provided us with evidence that they saw 5 to 6 individuals beating and stomping on one guy in a car. And what we know is that while the dealer was getting stomped on, he also had a knife with him, and he pulled out his knife and he stabbed the first guy who was closest to him. And that happened to be the victim. 1 stab. After the stabbing, the 5 who were, some were in the car, some were outside the car, the 5, including the guy who got stabbed, realized the stabbing occurred, and all 5 take off. The stabber was able to take off. The victim was able to take off. 2 guys ran one way, away from the car that was parked in the parking lot, and the victim and 2 other guys ran toward the car they came in the parking lot. When the 3 of them got to the car in the parking lot, the victim collapsed by the car in the parking lot. At this point, another individual, an RA at UB, who did not see what happened beforehand, came upon the scene and said, "What happened?" And the 2 individuals lied to the RA about what happened, and then lied to the RA about they had a warrant out for them and they had to leave, and they took off, leaving their buddy on the ground in the parking lot with the RA, though. And the RA then called 911. And then the 911 call, 911 came, paramedics came, police came, and then a short while later, the victim died. The dealer / stabber, who I guess is also a victim of getting beat up, initially got in his car, left, and then came back a short while later. The reason why he came back was he was missing his phone. One of the 5 guys stole his phone and ended up destroying his phone. So he left, then he came back to look for his phone, didn't find it, and then left. So when the cops got there, there was no one around except the RA and the victim lying on the ground in the parking lot with the car. The car was still left there. and with the backpack that was left there as well. The counterfeit money was left in the car of the dealer, and he took off in his car with the counterfeit money and presumably the marijuana. We've never recovered the marijuana. We have recovered the counterfeit money. So let me just step back though. So now when the police arrive, okay, that's all. Everyone else is gone. The car that the 5 arrived in is there by itself. The victim's on the ground, and the RA is there with them, and that's it. So, in the course of the past 6 months, we had to piece together the story. We had to piece together what happened. There were numerous reasons for a delay here, all right? I mean, I know that the family has been, calling me incompetent and complaining about why is it taking Flynn 6 months here. Well, we've told them the answer. They just don't want to listen to it. I'll tell the world the answer, okay? The answer is because we had individuals who did not immediately come forward. We had to hunt down who these people were. And then eventually they came forward. We had individuals, when they did come forward, they misled the police and lied to the police about what happened. On top of that, we had individuals who came forward who got lawyers right away. And whenever you get a lawyer now, okay, the lawyer's in charge about, hey, you're not talking to my client. I'm not going to let you talk to my client unless I get A, B, C, or D, or under these circumstances. So I've got to deal with lawyers now to talk to people who were involved and who were witnesses. We had to get search warrants for the phones that we recovered and that were turned over to us. We had to get search warrant for cell phone tower records to try to ping where people were and corroborate where people were at the time of the incident. It takes months and months to get cell phone records. It takes months and months to get cell tower records. So when I'm accused of being incompetent by the victim's family and their friends, I find that offensive. And and again, they know why this took long, because we have been in constant communication with the family throughout this entire incident. In person, over phone, through their lawyer, constantly in communication over the past 6 months. So when I see them out in front of the building here two days ago, railing against me that the DA hasn't been transparent, the DA hasn't told us what's going on, that could not be any further from the truth. Now, did I keep certain things from them, particulars about the investigation? Absolutely I did, because I don't want that information out there in the public while I'm conducting an investigation, especially a grand jury investigation. And my instincts were right about not telling them certain pieces of evidence, because I found out last night definitively when the mother of the victim sent an email to my office basically admitting that she had tape recorded all of our conversations that she had with our office. And so my instincts, which are usually right by doing this job for so long, not to get in the weeds with the family, was for a good reason. Because all that information and all that investigative information potentially could have been out there while I'm conducting an investigation, especially a grand jury investigation. So, even though the evidence clearly showed that this was a justifiable stabbing under New York law, I still put the case in the grand jury. For not only transparency, but just to show that, you know what, one person, i.e. me, is not going to make this decision solely. I could have. I normally do. There's only been a few cases that I've put in the grand jury that I thought were 50-50. I don't particularly like using the grand jury that way. I know that the grand jury is there for that purpose, but my MO is that I put cases in the grand jury that I know that I have a good faith basis that I can prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. Clearly, I did not have that in this case right here, but you know what? Out of fairness to the family, out of respect for the family, and out of respect for the fact that they lost their child. And as a father of 5 children, I would be devastated if I lost one of my children. And I feel for them. And because of my feelings for the family, even though they call me a racist, and even though they call me incompetent, and call me every other name in the book, all right, I can get over that. I'm already over it. They're never going to get over the loss of their son. So out of respect for that, I put the case in the grand jury. And the grand jury heard all of the evidence. I suspect in a couple of days, the family and their lawyer is going to hold a press conference and say that Flynn sandbagged the grand jury. Flynn didn't put everything in there. He had a predisposition that he admitted here on camera here 2 seconds ago. I had a predisposition. I knew it was not guilty. I knew that that was justifiable. So I took that predisposition that I had and I put that in the grand jury. Not true. Not true at all. I put every piece of evidence in the grand jury that was pertinent. I put enough evidence in the grand jury to give a proper picture about what happened here, and the grand jury no-billed it. Grand jury voted for a no bill, which in layman's terms basically is that I cannot go forward with the prosecution of this case, and this matter is closed. I know this is not what the family wants to hear, obviously. I know that they're going to be disappointed, and they're going to continue to call me names, and they're going to continue to say that I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And again, it's just not true. The family asked us to do a Crime Stoppers reward a month or so ago. There was no need. I know what happened, okay? There's no mystery about what happened here. I know who all the players are. I know who the stabber is. I know all the facts of the case. The only thing in question is whether or not it was a justifiable stabbing. That is the bottom line. And under New York state law, you are allowed to defend yourself with deadly physical force if you are being robbed, which clearly happened here. In addition to the robbery justification that you're allowed to use deadly physical force if you are being robbed, there's also a second prong of justification, a separate one, that says that if you are in imminent danger of your life, i.e. getting beat up and stomped on by 5 individuals, you're also allowed to use deadly physical force. So the stabber here had justification to use deadly physical force on 2 theories. 1, a robbery, being the victim of robbery, and 2, his own safety. That's all that matters in this case. That's the only thing in dispute in this case. Everything else is clear cut. We know who the players are. We know the cars involved. We know the routes taken. We know where it happened. We know where the bodies are at. We know where the evidence is at. Well, not all, though. We don't have the knife. So we never recovered a knife that was used. And we never recovered the marijuana. But aside from that, everything else we have, we know what happened. And so any future comments from anyone about me somehow sandbagging this process couldn't be anything further from the truth. And so again, I know it probably it's not going to mean much to the family at all because they probably don't believe me, they don't like me, but my hearts and prayers are with the family. I'm saddened by their loss. That's why I put the case in a grand jury in the first place. That's why I took this seriously. That's another accusation. I didn't take it seriously. It's not true. Took it seriously from day one. Take it seriously right now. Take every death seriously. And so to accuse me of not taking it seriously or doing anything to steer this result just couldn't be anything further from the truth. I know that there is some talk out there. Evidence did show that after this incident, the stabber went home and cleaned his car. That's true. Evidence shows he did do that. He didn't do a very good job of that because at some point he turned the car over to us, and there was still blood in the car, but the only blood in the car was his. The stabber was bloodied. The independent witnesses who saw the beating said that there were 4 to 6 individuals beating up a guy, and the guy was all bloodied. His face is all bloodied. So the only blood in the car was from the stabber, which makes sense because the victim is not going to bleed out that quick in the car. With a one stab wound, and the victim had clothing on and a jacket on, all right? That clothing and jacket's going to soak up that blood for a while. So his blood is not going to be there right away. And after the stabbing, they got out of the car pretty quick and ran back to their car in the parking lot. And by that time, when he fell by his own car there, not literally his car, the car he came in the parking lot, his clothing was all saturated with blood, and there was blood on the ground. So by then, the blood had time to ooze out and come out of the clothing. So it makes sense that his blood is not in the car. Again, if you hit an artery and it starts spurting out, that's one thing, but that didn't happen here. The only blood in the car was the stabbers from getting beat up in the car. And so, he did turn the car over to law enforcement. We did test it. And again, that was the only blood. So the fact that the stabber took his car home and cleaned it out is irrelevant. I mean, it doesn't, we know who did it. We know he did it. We know he stabbed the victim. That's not a question here. His actions afterward of cleaning it up, that somehow shows some kind of mindset where I had to cover a crime up, okay? Yeah, all right, I get it. He's probably thinking to himself, yeah, I just stabbed someone. I'm going to clean the car out, okay? But, he didn't obviously know the law and know that, his actions were justified. He wasn't thinking through that probably. He just probably thought, I got to clean my car out. But like I said, he didn't do a very good job of it because when he turned the car over to us, there was still blood in the car. And again, you can't clean out blood, really. I mean, in order to clean out blood in a car, you need like a professional to come in there and clean out blood in a car, all right? You're not, some kid is not using Fantastic to get blood out of a car. It's not how it works. So it doesn't really, the fact that he took his car home and cleaned it out is irrelevant. There was also some conspiracy theory about out there that the family or one of the friends was saying about how there was a prior incident there at UB, and they left with the victim, and then they brought the victim back there and stabbed the victim back there. Nonsense. Not true at all. We know what happened. We know when the cars got to UB. We know when they left Buff State. We know everything. So any type of conspiracy theories about some prior incident is just totally not true at all. We even asked the family members, and we never do this. This is how transparent we were and how communicative we were with the family. We asked the family, is there anyone you want us to bring in the grand jury? I've never done that, I don't think. I can't remember ever doing that hardly, all right? We asked the family, is there anyone you want me to bring in the grand jury for you? They gave us 2 names. We didn't use either one of them, but they gave us 2 that we, the girlfriend of the victim, who, again, is out there on the front step a couple days ago, calling me a racist and calling me incompetent. But the girlfriend, just so you know, we have text messages from the girlfriend to the victim, like 2 months prior to this happening, where the girlfriend's telling the victim, you better be careful about hanging out. Definitively know that. So, the girlfriend, we don't need to, I can't talk about who I put in a grand jury, who I don't put in a grand jury, but I can just say that, we asked the question about who they would want to go in a grand jury. And I'll leave it at that because I can't confirm or deny who did or did not go in a grand jury. So obviously this is a tragic situation, and our hearts go out to the family here. It may seem that I'm a little miffed by, being called a racist and being called incompetent, and to a certain degree I am, but I'm more upset about a young man dying. I'm more upset about the loss of life. But in this case, the loss of life was not criminal. So I'll take questions on this, but real quickly, obviously the funeral for our hero firefighter was held today, Jason Arno, and I can tell you that the investigation is underway. It has been underway for the past 10 days. The investigation includes my office, obviously, along with the ATF and the Buffalo Police Department and the Buffalo Fire Marshals. We are in the course of trying to determine the cause of the fire, what exactly happened inside that building, and my role, obviously, is to determine if, in fact, any criminal conduct is going to result from that fire. Nothing's been ruled out yet. There are 3 kind of levels of conduct. There's intentional, there's reckless, and there's negligent. There's a 4th, stupid conduct, but let's put stupid aside and just, there's intentional, negligent, reckless, and negligent. So all 3 areas are being looked at. Like I said, nothing's been ruled out yet. I'd be surprised if we find anything intentional at this point. But again, it's not ruled out yet, though. But whether or not there was reckless conduct or whether or not there was negligent conduct is being investigated and will be thoroughly investigated by this office, along with my partners in law enforcement and the ATF and the fire department. Questions, Harold?
Just so I understand how this works, is it your determination or is it the determination of the grand
jury
that there no charges to be pursued
Grand jury.
in this case.
Grand jury. They no bill it. So when that's
What is it called?
no bill. No one word bill. BILL. Yeah, they vote. So how a grand jury works is that, no, I'm not talking about this case particularly here. I'm just in general law school, okay? I present a case to the grand jury. I give them the evidence. I give them the charges that are potentially there. And then they vote either to indict or not to indict. And they voted not to indict. And the legal word for not to indict is called a no bill. So it's them. A group of Erie County residents, citizens, voted on this, not me.
I don't know if you can answer this, but were they allowed to consider whether others involved in this situation had some kind of culpability?
Well,
Did they look at that?
here's how I can answer that question. They were given the evidence that pretty much, well, I can't say, let me tell you, they were given numerous pieces of evidence in this case, witnesses, data material. They were given numerous pieces of evidence, all right, that covered this whole thing. So now again, we only presented evidence. Our focus was on whether or not this stabber was being charged with a crime or not. Okay, when it comes to others, all right, technically no. Okay, but I'm not charging anyone else, or I'm not investigating anyone else. Okay. Let's just talk about that for a minute. So, who are the potential others? All right. Well, in addition to the stabbing, there's also potential attempted sale of marijuana. All right. Now, it appears by the evidence that the sale never took place. All right. But there's an attempted marijuana sale there. Okay. However, in order to prosecute an attempted marijuana sale, I need the marijuana. I don't have the marijuana. Okay. So I can't. That's out the window. So the stabbing was no billed, okay? The marijuana sale, I can't do anything about it because I don't have marijuana, all right? So now let's look at the other four now, okay? Of the five, one's dead, unfortunately, all right? The other four, there's potentially an assault and an attempted robbery, okay? In order to prosecute the other four for an assault or attempted robbery, I would need the stabber as my victim, okay? So I would need to use him as my victim against the other four. And that would, to me, would be a travesty of justice. So I'm not doing it.
So I know you're saying that it's a justified stabbing.
Yes.
But nothing, the stabber could get nothing, not even
Nothing.
criminal possession of a weapon. You had indicated.
I don't have the weapon.
Driving away,
Yep.
cleaning the
Yep.
car out. Absolutely
Nothing.
no responsibility
No.
legally whatsoever.
No?
So what charges did you present?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't tell you what exactly was what charged. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
no one was arrested either way as well?
Well, there's no arrest. No, no. The only way there's an arrest is that if you, if they vote to indict, then I make an indictment on the arrest on the indictment. But they voted not to indict, so no arrest.
Where was Tyler Lewis? Where was he stabbed?
In the chest.
And then
One stab, one in the chest.
and then he goes back to the car.
Yeah, he walked back to ran and walked back to the car. Yeah.
Right. The family has also claimed that medical personnel, they were slow to getting to the scene. Do you have any indication as to
No.
how long it took
I don't.
EMS or paramedics to
I
get
don't.
there?
I don't. I know that the RA was there right away. The RA, was there and had a conversation with two of his buddies, who then took off, and then she called 911 right away. But how long it took to get down on that, I don't know.
Is your understanding that he died at the scene there, or
I don't.
to a hospital?
I'm not sure. He was definitely taken to a hospital. I'm not sure if he died on the way or at the hospital. That I'm not sure of. But I can find out for him and let you know.
Was this potential, is there any sort of evidence that maybe indicates that the victim was doing some sort of initiation intention
No,
to be part of that?
no. It was just they were going to rob a guy of marijuana with counterfeit money.
So how old is this stabber?
The stabber is, I don't know how, he's young. He's like,
From what I remember, there was like the press release says between the age of like 19 and 20.
yes,
I just wanna know
yeah,
specifically.
I got it, but you know, I don't want to I'm not going to say anything to identify who these 6 people are. Okay, so, but I'll let you know if I want to tell you that or not. I don't know off the top of my head the exact age. When I can go find out in a minute, and I'll think about it if I want to let you know.
So, like, where is this case like heading to? So
The case is done.
like there's
No,
justice for
not heading anywhere.
this girl.
The grand jury ended it.
What about investigating the people who are lying to police and all that?
That's fine.
What is this,
It's
alleged
fine.
scam called again?
Happens.
Um,
Harold, yes?
What, this scam of robbing? marijuana?
Staining? Staining. Stain. S-T-A-I-N. Stain.
Is
Yes.
that something that's widespread? Is that something that you've heard in other investigations?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't learn the name Stain until this investigation right here. But you know, I hear you know, tangentially all the time about, you know, marijuana dealers getting robbed, but you know, no one wants to come forward, obviously, because you know they're a marijuana dealer, so they're not going to come forward. But you know, you get intel through, you know, law enforcement sources about people, you know, people getting robbed, you know, marijuana dealers getting robbed. I had never heard the word stain before, but in the course I learned that word now.
And it's specifically directed or targeted toward marijuana.
Yeah.
Not other kind of illicit drugs.
It may be, but it may be, Harold. It may have different connotations with different people, but with this group right here, the evidence that we gathered, it was just focused on marijuana dealers, and the tangential information that we learned was it's a phrase used for marijuana dealers. Now, do some kids in Philly use it for other dealers? Maybe, you know, that, I don't know that, but I mean, it definitely is used for marijuana dealers in this crowd that I've investigated here.
And just to be clear,
Yep.
you said there's evidence that the victim in this case, or the deceased person,
Yes.
was involved in this activity.
Oh, absolutely. He was the one who went into the car with the dealer, with the counterfeit money, to buy the marijuana, with his friend's cell phone, with his friend's backpack, with his friend's ID in the backpack, and a large kitchen knife in the backpack as well. To be fair, that was never brought out and used, but it was with him in the backpack. And on top of that, we have cell phone records that show the phone of the friend texting to another one of the guys, "I'm in the car, I'm about to duff him."
What does stuff mean?
Beat up.
And this is all on video.
This is all on text.
Well, going into the car and everything.
No, nothing in the parking lot's on video. The video just shows, we got video from Buff State that shows the car leaving the Buff State campus. We got some video from UB that shows the cars pulling into the Buff State area, but there's no video that shows the incident.
So all this is based off of cell phone records and witness
And
accounts.
yes.
And was this, the only reason I wanted to ask was for initiation was because I know that early on you had said that he was with these people and they were involved, but, you know, I guess I just wanted more clarity in terms of, had he done this activity before, or was this the first time that he had done this with this?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I have evidence that that this activity had gone on before amongst some of the others. Whether or not they specifically included him or not, okay, is a little unclear.
I guess, like, what do you have to say to Tyler's mom? Because, like,
Yeah, I mean,
It's just kind of like he was a freshman from Buffalo State University, majoring in business administration, and he just,
it's awful.
his future
It's awful.
gone.
It's awful.
So,
It's awful. It's awful that,
especially with this case being closed, so
Yeah,
I can't
it's-
imagine like how she's feeling.
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. I'm not even gonna fake imagining how she feels, because I can never imagine how she feels. I'm gonna leave here tonight and go home. Well, none of my kids are home, but I mean, I can grab my phone in my office and FaceTime all 5 of my kids right now when I leave here. She can't do that. And so I cannot possibly imagine how she feels. She feels awful. But I operate under the parameters of the law, okay? And I presented this case to the citizens of Erie County. The grand jury is 20 to 25 people, okay? Typically a grand jury. I can't tell you this one here exactly, okay? But a typical grand jury is 20 to 25 people. And we present the evidence to those 25 people. And they vote on the evidence. And they voted that a crime did not occur.
How about a question just about the timing of everything? I
Yep.
know that the grand jury recently just made its decision, but on
Yeah.
the day in which Jason Arno's funeral was held,
It's
why
coincidence. Yeah.
And why make this such an important announcement on this day?
Because it was a coincidence the grand jury got done today. So the grand jury's happened to vote on it today. Whenever grand jury's done, it's done, okay? So I can't like hold that back. They vote on it today, and if I delay talking about what happened in the grand jury, then I'm gonna be accused of trying to hide something. So, it's just a coincidence that the grand jury got done today, and so I'm not gonna hide anything. I'm gonna tell you what happened in the grand jury. Okay? Good to go? Good to go.